Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erika L. Day, and I am joined in Studio K by Stephen Brittney Griner. If you haven't been watching our show, you would know that this is our first time in person, and I don't think I could be more excited. I mean, Stephen came all the way from Chicago to film this episode with me, and I just want to say I'm #blessed. Welcome to the studio, Stephen. How are you? My MVP on and off the field, QB1. I could say it to him in person, like, what the heck? How are we doing today?
Blessed as always. It's fun to be in Phoenix. It's fun to be talking about the Mercury. Also got WNBA Finals preview stuff coming and some player reviews. So a lot of fun basketball to talk about prior to the big game tonight. So let's get to it.
Don't mind me, but it's the most wonderful time of the year. Don't worry, guys. I keep my day job. But yeah, finals start today. I'm super, super excited. The first thing I thought of this morning was that Kanye song, Good Morning, and it's been just that. Stephen, you've come at a perfect time, though. We've just merely escaped the 100-degree days. And so welcome to Phoenix. Welcome to the Valley. We're happy to have you. Thank you guys for joining us in the comments. And then also big shouts to Damon Dog for being our producer today. As you can see, we've got the guy, Caleb Love, and T-Mac behind us just so we can throw Shane Diefenbach for being a T-Mac denier under the bus. Don't worry, though. Next time we're in the studio, we'll make sure that they get some Mercury pictures up there. We can't throw, Diana out the window. So anyways, though, welcome back to the show. We're super excited to be here. We got big news in Mercury Land. And, I wanted to start off with this. First and foremost, Brittney Griner is unrivaled. And I'll be honest, I did not think that we would be having this conversation if you would have asked me 3 months ago if I was going to see Brittney Griner play 3-on-3. I would have giggled at you because why? But now that the announcement has been made, I am itching with excitement for the Courtney Williams ex-BG pick and rolls. I mean, it's just going to be, I'm itching for it.
It's going to be fun watching Brittney Griner have so much space. You can't send multiple defenders at her. She also gets to work on her skill, being dribble handoffs and, post-ups and isolation. It's going to be fun for her, but I think the biggest thing is probably going to be the defense. Just having to defend in so much more space. She's still going to be at the basket, and there's still going to be an impact there. So it's going to be fun seeing people try to figure out how to try to get her away from blocking shots at the basket as often as she does. But in general, just playing in 3-on-3, the speed is a lot more up-tempo, and I think that'll benefit her a lot.
A little BG3 from the top of the key.
And she will be letting that thing fly. You better believe it.
Just because Nate's not there doesn't mean she won't be letting it fly. I do believe that.
She's letting that thing fly. You better believe it.
But, I mean, I'm super excited. That brings our grand total to 3 Mercury players in the Unrivaled League. And I just think it's going to be a really, really exciting time. Like, January cannot... I would say January cannot come fast enough, but we got a lot of college ball to watch until then. So I guess, it can come fast enough.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be fun just seeing all of these players in a different context of play. It's, 3-on-3 is, as you know, is different. But it's going to be fun seeing them embrace the game and then also see how much fun they have playing it with such a high level of crop of players. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
While we're on the topic of Unrivaled, I got a question. What do you think the odds of us getting a Mercury-only lineup are in this league? Just for maybe, I know they said the lineups are going to kind of cycle, kind of similar to Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, maybe 1 week, of just...
They might bake it in. This is a very modern approach that they're taking to it. They'll probably figure out a way because a couple teams have multiple players to try to get the same players on at least one roster as it's cycling through. That would be fun, though. I think we do need to see it.
PHNX Mercury in Miami, if that happens.
We've had discussions about it. That would be dope if we could make that shake.
Come on now. But, some other news on Planet Mercury. I don't know if we've even talked about Sophie's broken clavicle on this show, but she played basically the entire season. I want to say she used the word no clavicle at one point in the season, but she did have surgery last year. She's one of the only 4 players that the Mercury have on lock for next year, so it's pretty important that she's prepared to be role player on this team, and so having the surgery when she had it, huge for the squad, and I just think it's going to be big for her to have that time to recover.
Sophie was one of the best 3-point shooters this season on a fairly substantial volume. And doing that with a not 100% shoulder, let's just say that.
On her,
on her shooting side, right?
Like,
yeah.
Come on now.
And that's that in and of itself that speaks greatly to her. But I think the other big thing with that, she was also defending bigger players the entire season. A lot of times spent in the post. That same shoulder is the one that she often contests shots with. So it's a lot of movement with that. She was also one of the leaders in deflections for the Mercury this season too. So say what you want, dogs just figure out how to still have impact and not using it as an excuse. We didn't even hear about the injury until exit interviews.
Yeah,
she didn't really speak on it.
She spoke barely about her shoulder bothering her, but it wasn't until exit interviews that we knew anything about the broken clavicle. And like that, like he's saying, like that's your, shooting shoulder.
That's your everything.
Yeah, and she, if you asked her, she kind of learned how to be a lefty this season, and that's why you probably were maybe a little more frustrated in the first half of the season, is because she quite literally was relearning how to shoot with her left hand. So big shouts to Sophie for that, because we're excited to have her back in the full capacity, but that doesn't mean she didn't work her rear end off to make sure that she was still a meaningful, impactful player for the squad this year. That being said, though, I do have to talk about something that kind of bums me out. And that's Natasha Mack having a knee injury, and it's directly prohibiting her from going overseas right now. And the squad she's going to or hoping to go to is super excited to have her. And unfortunately, it's just the T's can't be crossed and the I's can't be dotted until they know a little bit more about her knee. And quite frankly, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with her knee other than the fact that it is not working as it should. She's back in the Valley, hopefully to get some work done and go on about her way, go over to play overseas. I've kind of talked about it on the show a little bit before, but like when you're a young player like that, it's not that you have to go play overseas, but it is so beneficial to you. And you really do see the difference in the following season in young players that don't go play overseas versus players that do, and their growth on and off the court.
Yeah, that's the toughest part of that injury-wise. First of all, Natasha Mack coming off of her best season of basketball in her career, not being able to just go right into building on top of that, obviously a little bit lesser scale in terms of the skill level she'll be going up against, but still an opportunity to continue to grow. That's tough. That's tough. I hope whatever the knee injury is not going to be prohibiting her for too long. Because this is where a lot of the growth is going to take place for her. And I don't think she will be back with the Mercury next season more than likely, but I think there's still so much more for her to grow from with that for her baseline that she established this season. So we'll see. Hopefully she gets better soon and sooner than soon, and then we can get back to seeing Mack Truck be Mack Truck.
I'm loving Brendan's comment. Yes, in the studio, PHNX Mercury. Watch out, Brendan Clean. Okay, we're coming, and we're here to be in person for indefinitely. So watch out for that. But that being said, one more little bit of news on Planet Mercury. And, we've been giving big shouts to Celeste Taylor for the last, 4 weeks. We've just been yapping about Miss Taylor and how impactful she has been on this team, on and off the court. That being said, the squads overseas wanted her just as bad. And you can see that in the way that the Sydney Flame has received her. She is going to be very well loved and taken care of. And Damon Dog, please, this picture, everyone's been waiting to see Mass Celeste. And when I saw this picture, I about passed out. I needed to be put into a straitjacket because I needed to see this picture about 3.5 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, however long. I don't know. Time is a construct that I've lost. But yeah, Mass Celeste, dog eat dog. Come on now. I'll be watching her Sydney Flame games, and so should you. I don't think she's played in the game yet, so watch out for that. I will be tweeting about that so you can watch our rookie Celeste Taylor take on the Dogs over in Australia. I'm amped.
Yeah, Celeste is swaggy.
Facts.
She has a lot of swag, and I think the mask just gives her another layer of swag to bring to the court. She's fun. She's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what she gets done over there in terms of her continued growth because she was very impressive this season. And yeah, the mask is like a I don't even know what you really want to call it because it's not really an alter ego. She just really embraces the dog even more.
I see Lindsay talking about we need to meme the photo. Don't worry, you guys. I'm working on it already. Like, you do not have to worry about that. I'm already on it. But yes, also that, Lindsay, we do need to protect Celeste. Listen, I actually wanted to talk about this for just a second, because we kind of talked about it last week. But we're in person now, and I get to actually, hear Stephen's thoughts from his head. And so I desperately need the Phoenix Mercury to protect both Mac and Celeste, and I need to figure out a way for this to happen without tarnishing everyone else on our roster. And by that, there's no one on the roster right now. So, it's just, no, not Celeste over Mac Truck. I want them both. I know beggars can't be choosers, but this one can be. This is my world, and you guys live in it. So I get to choose that I would like to keep both.
I think it would behoove the Mercury to keep Celeste for more than any other reason. The fact that they didn't have a draft pick in this most recent draft, she served as a pseudo draft pick, being able to stumble into her literally because the fever let her go. And see the impact that she had. I think it just makes too much sense for them to have a piece that they can invest into, but also a piece that's integrated with Natasha Cloud and Clea Copper, as well as Diana Taurasi, and how she's been received and how she's kind of taken to their leadership. I think those things are all undeniable. Obviously, opportunity elsewhere would be a whole lot more on volume for Celeste, but I do feel like with the Mercury, she could kind of grow more effectively just off of the leadership components. And she clearly has a niche in terms of her role with the team, too. Might not necessarily be what it was this season, because I do expect them to address backup point guard in this offseason period. But I do feel like at some point, she's going to still have a position within the main rotation should she remain on the roster.
Lindsay, to answer your question, Celeste or Mac, I am choosing the word or, because I'm not doing that. So do you have a choice in the two?
Celeste or Mac Truck? I would say Celeste.
I love that we've gotten Stephen to agree to the Mac Truck name.
And my reason for saying Celeste, to just add context, I feel like it's easier to address whether it's directly the same archetype or a different style that might fit the Mercury behind Brittney Griner. I think it's hard to find a guard that brings the intangibles, but also the skills that Celeste brings to the floor. So being able to bridge that gap and have some of the similar things that Natasha Cloud brings when she's on the floor in place of her when Celeste is on, there's a lot of value in that. Celeste, really good with screen navigation, solid size as a guard, super active, picking up 94 feet, and a really good cutter as well in addition to all of that. It really helps them pick up the pace. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I would keep that and really kind of hone it in. And like I said, invest in internally with their development and kind of get things rocking out from there.
Well, we've given you 2 reasons now, Celeste and Mac, to be anxious for the rest of the offseason. Good luck. But that being said, we got some coaching changes this morning. Well, you know what? Actually, not this morning. Over the last, week and a half, it's just been chaos in the W land. But I want to start with what I was actually going to end with, because I think the Mercury fans can let out a sigh of relief knowing that their coaching staff, for now, is safe. Stephen and I have been on the looks about Christy Tolliver going to the Valkyries since the beginning of the season, since the Valkyries were announced. And obviously the Valkyries announced this morning that they hired Natalie Nakasi out of the Las Vegas Aces. And, we're so thrilled for Natalie. She definitely deserves this position. That being said, though, Mercury fans everywhere, you can breathe.
For now. Shout out to Natalie. Much earned and much deserved as well. I think she's going to go do big things. I do think that's going to be a hit to the Las Vegas Aces coaching staff. Obviously, they still have Becky Hammond, and they also still have Tyler Marsh, who has also been a name that's been circling for head coaching vacancies in the W. I don't think it's going to be long before he earns an opportunity as well, and we'll be saying the same thing about him too. But in the short term, I think Natalie's going to be great for a brand new startup franchise. There's no identity. There's no culture. She's literally establishing everything to come. And I don't think they could have made a better decision in terms of getting some fresh blood with the fresh franchise. That's going to be fun to see. I'm not sure if Christy Tolliver is still going to be with the coaching staff come next season. I hope that she is, because the relationship established with the guards in particular, by word of Nate Tibbetts as well as Natasha Cloud, is second to none in terms of what made this team what they were this season, especially when they were at their best. And I think at some point she is going to be a head coach in the WNBA. I'm just hoping that they get a chance to hold her for one more season and really kind of make a stamp in the playoffs with her on the sideline as well.
Yeah, agreed. And, also thrown out Natalie's name a lot.
Yeah.
You know, for this position, and it honestly just made too much sense at this point. She's been with the Aces for their entire, you know,
Since
dynasty.
there,
you know,
since
so
Becky
it's
got
like she has seen exactly how to build, like Stephen said, a culture from the ground up and do it, you know, efficiently, quickly, and get them to a title game. So, you know, she's an excellent choice for the position. And like Stephen said, don't let out too many deep breaths of relief, because things could still happen, you know?
Stay tuned. But a little bit more on Natalie, just seeing her career arc go from her time spent with the Los Angeles Clippers, transition into the Las Vegas Aces under Becky Hammond on her brain trust, and then now seeing her in this position, it's fun. And I think assistant coaches don't get the valuing from general perception that they bring to the fold. Like, I don't know how many people watch Becky in her pregame and postgames, but Becky never is shy about letting people know, oh yeah, you like that? Yeah, that was Natalie. Oh yeah, you like that? That was all Tyler. This was his scout. This was her scout. And they were really on it with this. Like, those little things like that really help to make your team unique. And obviously Becky gets a majority of the attention from the coaching side, which she deserves. But Becky will tell you better than I can that she can't be herself without the efforts of Natalie as well as Tyler. And having 1/3 of that not in the picture anymore, but potentially 2/3 of it, a lot of changes going on. Stay tuned.
I'm giggling because there's like comments that say Christy better stay in Phoenix, and also comments that saying if Christy doesn't get a head coaching position, that they're gonna riot on her behalf. And like, I agree with you on both sides, because like, I would love Christy to stay in Phoenix, but at the same time, she's entirely capable of being a head coach, and a very good one in this league. So
if that is what she wants to do, if it's what she wants to do, I want to preface with that. There's no doubt in my mind that she will be a very, very good coach.
She can just stay with Tash Cloud wherever she goes. That's cool with me.
I mean, they won a ring. They got a ring together. That means a lot. So yeah, I can see it. And I think there's going to be a dynamic with that plays in their favor going forward into the offseason, but stay tuned for that. Let's see.
Yes, Ogre McFubin, we are in person today. Welcome to the club. We're so excited. What have we done to deserve this? Ask Stephen. He delivered himself up on a silver platter for us. I'm stoked, you guys. So, but there's more coaching changes. Don't be afraid. We also have to talk about the Chicago Sky a little bit. There has been a lot of tumultuous nonsense and talk around the Chicago Sky letting go Therese Witherspoon, and I guess I'm going to let Stephen kind of take the reins here, just because he's so much closer to the situation than I am.
Yeah, it was come to the surprise of everybody, whether you cover the team or you watch them casually or you're just a fan of WNBA basketball. I don't think anybody anticipated Teaspoon not having her job coming, or with the Sky in particular, going into next season. So the surprise factor was loud, and it kind of it still presides to this day. Like, we saw her at Game 2 in New York, and you saw the way she was received, and it still hits like, wow, she's really not coaching this team that she was so clearly valued and appreciated for by the players and even some of the front office executives. But that's the way the business is right now. Things have to be done a certain way. Things have to be to a certain level. There's a lot of expectations with it, especially when you have the draft picks that they did. And, it's unfortunate. I don't think it was necessarily fair, but, that's the predicament that they're in right now. And clearly they're in the market for another head coach, and they're looking to take steps forward from what was their 2024 season with Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso.
Well, before I get ahead of myself with my theories and this, that, and the other, let's talk about every other, thing that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually the first to happen, so we've probably talked about it, but obviously Curt Miller was let go from LA. That was a huge, huge news. I would say probably more shocking to me almost even than the Chicago Sky firing, if that's what we're going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the Sparks have been plagued back-to-back seasons with injuries and illness, quite frankly, not even just injuries. And so it's been pretty difficult for them to compete with top teams, and I wouldn't necessarily say I agree with it being Curt Miller's fault. I'm not going to say he shouldn't have been let go. I'm not in LA, but that being said, it definitely sent wavelengths around the league when that happened.
That's an understatement, but I do think, so just full circle, Curt decided to leave the Connecticut Sun. It wasn't the front office's decision. In fact, they tried to go great lengths to keep him against his own will. And he ultimately said he just felt like it was a disservice to the players for them to continue to kind of beat their head against the wall and just not be able to kick it down. He felt like they needed a change of voice and change of leadership. So it's his decision by his will to leave the Connecticut Sun. Obviously, ultimately go to accept a position with the Los Angeles Sparks. That's tough because it feels like it was mutual from front office as well as Kurt that this just wasn't the situation where he could bring this team to being optimized. And it's tough when you don't have Cameron Brink for the whole season, essentially, on top of all of that. You saw a little
Lexi Brown. I mean, the list goes on and on for them, you know?
Which is, like you said, it's been a repeat, different context, but the same thing. Injury bug. They lost the most minutes to players not being available last season. I don't know that specific stat this season, but they're very close to the top of that. It might be second to like the Mystics at this point.
I was gonna say second to the Phoenix Mercury.
Might be the Mercury too. That's top. that's 3 of the top 4 for sure. But I don't think he's gonna be out of coaching for long. It's undeniable what his impact on the coaching staff is. Very clearly a member of the Team USA coaching staff as well for the last handful of go-arounds. I don't know exactly where he'll end up. To a user who commented that Kurt might go to the Sky, I don't think that Kurt Miller is going to end up being the coach of the Chicago Sky, but I do think he could potentially end up elsewhere. If there's a swap that happens with Connecticut, maybe a reunion is in store. I don't know. I'm not breaking news. I'm just talking out loud while I'm actively thinking. But I don't think that he's going to be a coach that's not around in the W for too long.
Agreed. And before we get to my little theory in my perfect world, I'll just tell y'all one last little thing. Tanisha Wright and the Atlanta Dream. It was a decision that was, in my reading of the situation, seemed to be mutual, and the Dream have too much talent to be flirting with the playoffs back to back to back. You have Ryan Howard, who's arguably one of the best three-point shooters to literally walk the earth. You have Alisha Gray. We've gone in Big Al on this show. If you watch this show, you know about Big Al.
That's right.
They just have a plethora of talent in Atlanta, and Tanisha was, it was a mutual decision. And so in my perfect world, Teaspoon to Atlanta, Kurt to Chicago, and then Stephanie White to the Sparks.
That would be interesting. I will say I saw a tweet following Tanisha Wright's firing. Someone was asking if Kurt Miller liked lemon pepper wings, and I thought that was hilarious, just considering if you know the parties involved. That was hilarious. It's still making me laugh to this day. I saw that like sometime last week. But in all seriousness, though, Tanisha Wright, that's a tough scenario. She never had a healthy deck of cards. Either of her 3 seasons, I believe, with the Atlanta Dream. That's tough, especially when it's some of your most important players that are not around for a majority of that time. That makes you doing your job hard. But, just kind of like we said, it's not necessarily a fair scenario being a head coach in the W as quickly as things move around. I don't know if she'll be around to coach next season, but not unlike Kurt Miller, she's another coach that was a part of the Team USA Brain Trust under Shell Reeve. From multiple go-arounds. It's undeniable she's a good basketball mind. It's just a matter of, just like with players and how they fit together, if a coach and their philosophies and their style of leadership matches whatever roster it is that they're with. It didn't feel like there was a connection there a handful of times, especially last season, but to similar degrees this season with Tanisha and the Atlanta Dream. So this one felt a little bit more obvious. I was surprised it didn't happen last season. Yeah. And this is not me rooting for anybody to lose their job. It's just sometimes you can, just by observing or even being in like press conferences and watching teams, you can tell that they're not playing to the identity or philosophies that a coach might have, or vice versa. Sometimes, like I said, that puzzle piece just doesn't match. And that's very much what it felt like with the Atlanta Dream the last 2 seasons.
Well, that being said, Kurt Miller eating some lemon pepper wings now would be hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
That would be like how Mike McDonald with the with the Miami Dolphins, and they were kind of looking at how he's changed since he first got there to where he is now 3 seasons in. The whole aura's kind of changed and shifted. He's adapted to the Miami Vice type of vibe. It would be funny to see Kurt Miller kind of adapting to Atlanta if he was to end up down there, just from a from an optics perspective.
ATL or Chicago. I'm sorry, but the culture would just go
Yeah.
diabolical, if you will.
See, being from Chicago, I just quite literally cannot
Can't
see
see it.
him adapting to the Chicago culture like that. But he's undeniably a great basketball man. I'll say that.
Is that I just see his relationship with Erika and the other players on the Sparks, and I want that trust with Angel and Camilla and their head coach, and especially this early in their career. And I think it sucks that they were borderline robbed of that with Teaspoon, and now she's gone, and they had such a great relationship with her, and now they're kind of stuck in this like limbo game. Kind of really sucks, I would imagine, to be in your rookie offseason and be coachless.
Yeah, well, they being the Chicago Sky front office have to make some decisions. 3 coaches in 4 seasons, not ideal. 2 coaches within a year of each other in terms of when Emery came into being the head coach after James Wade left, and then the hiring of Teresa Witherspoon after the 2023 season. Not a good look. You got to figure it out. And you got to figure it out quick, because how can you be a destination for free agents, regardless if you have a ton of cap space or not, if you don't have your decision on what you want your franchise to look like from a leadership perspective going into that? So now they see themselves in the same situation as they did last season. You lose Kalia Copper shortly after you hire Teresa Witherspoon, and now you got to try to attract free agents with all of this other stuff that you're trying to figure out on the logistics side of things. That's going to make it hard again this season. I mean, the good news in it, they just announced and broke ground for the practice facility yesterday. So that's cool. That's cute. But you have to execute on the business side of things to get the attention that you want from free agents. You can't get one without the other.
Stephen left, and they're opening a practice facility.
Maybe I was in the way the whole time. If so, my bad.
You're the direct prohibitor, bro. What the heck?
My fault.
Well, that being said, we do got to take a second. Thank our sponsors for today's videos, our good friends over at Empire Flooring. Stephen, you're just moving here. I know you're going to need floors in like literally no time at all, right?
Yes.
And what are you going to do when you need those floors?
What's the phone number again? I can't do the jingle. Shout out to Chris. I can't do the
No. I'm not. I already sang twice on this show. I'm not doing it anymore today. You do not have to call a phone number. Luckily, you don't have to talk to anybody. You just go to their website, empiretoday.com/PHNX. You can have their super cool new floor visualizer. Take a picture. Steven, he's going to take a picture of his brand new living room and his bedroom while he's at it. He's going to get 2 rooms of new floors, upload his pictures, see what his new flooring is going to look like, and bing, bada, boom. He's getting new floors from Empire today. Oh my goodness, you guys. I've told you in the comments that my brain is working entirely too fast. That is exactly what's happening. But yes, Steven is going to use Empire Flooring to make sure that his new crib is fitted out with the good stuff, right?
Most definitely.
He's going to go to empiretoday.com/PHNX. And then also, you guys see the cool new studio we're in, right? Like, I have only been in here one time for the PHNX Wildcat show. And while that was so fun, I just can't help but be overly joyed that we are sponsored by Circle K. As you can see on the screen, any size Polar Pop, 79 cents, but also you can go on their app. You can enroll in their new rewards program. It's free, called the Inner Circle. You guys know, we love the Inner Circle down in the Valley. But if you join their Inner Circle, you get free rewards. You get 25 cents off a gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, and then 3 cents off every gallon after that. What better time to become an Inner Circle member than today? You can try some of these new snacks. I see some comments asking if we had tried the beef jerky. Of course we've tried the beef jerky. Did you think we were fake fans of Circle K around here? I think not. No, we've got our Polar Pop. We got our jerky. We've got the chips. Like, we got the snacks. And if you don't go to Circle K, you won't have the snacks. So join the Inner Circle. Get over there. Get your favorite snacks and your 79-cent Polar Pop. But that being said, we got WNBA Finals today.
Big time.
Literally in like an hour and a half.
Big time hoops, yes.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
So we're just going to talk about this for a little bit. We got some predictions. We got a little preview. Just to jump off the top, do I think that both the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx both have avenues that they can win these games? Yes. Do I see that New York is in a better position to do so? I believe that is what I see. Stephen, we're in the finals.
Yes.
Who we taking and why?
That's a great question. I love both of these teams in terms of how they play to the style of play that their coaches desire, the sustained manner in which they do so. I do think the best teams in the WNBA are being represented in the WNBA Finals. That's not always the final result because series are series for a reason. Whoever plays better at any particular pocket of time can win a series. But I do think that this is exactly how it needed to be for the best basketball from the two teams that have been the best all season in the W to be. For full context, we saw the Minnesota Lynx win the regular season series 2-1. Add another game onto that being the Commissioner's Cup Championships, which is really that was the coming out party for them. Cheryl Reeve was very adamant about people not knowing who their players are and that they would know them well after this Commissioner's Cup round, and that's exactly where we are now. Ever since then, they've gotten a lot more attention, the attention that they've deserved and earned. And for those reasons, I do think that the Minnesota Lynx are going to be the WNBA champions.
Did you see my tweet, Stephen?
No, I did not.
Oh, man. I made this hilarious video, the Liberty Mutual, Liberty Bibbity, and where she says, cut it. We're going to ad-lib it. It's me saying Liberty in 5.
You got Liberty in 5?
I do. And okay. I also would like to throw in that I want at least 2 overtimes in the series.
You might get it. You might get it.
I knew that you were gonna say that.
You might get it. These teams are just so good. It's gonna be fun trying to see how they figure out how to figure the other team out. Sandy Brondello, obviously Cheryl Reeve. That's a lot of coaching experience. 2
Olympic coaches. They coached against each other in the Olympics. Like, hello?
It's a lot. It's like this is such a thorough layered matchup from the sidelines to the players to the inner dynamics with the players and the coaches. It's gonna be fun. The styles of basketball. This is that's the other big thing for me. This is a very, very modern basketball series we're about to see. Both teams play with 5-out spacing. Everybody on the court can shoot, pass, and dribble. The coaches play to that with their philosophies and how they go about it. Throw in the gloves and let's see about this one. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, I have a couple of ridiculous stat line predictions that I would like to drop on your head. First of all, I'm going to talk about Courtney Williams. We talked about her a bunch on the show. She put the stompage on the Phoenix Mercury a few times over the season, including in the playoffs. That being said, I'm looking for a points, rebounds, assists, triple-double from our girl Courtney.
I don't think it's out of the realm that she hits that in twice.
Thank you.
So my reasoning for picking Minnesota, and mind you, this is me deciding as Erika asked me the question. As we walked into the studio today, I went New York Liberty in 5. And now, once I got asked the question, I'm like, no, I'm going with the Lynx in 5.
I'm sick.
And I'm going with the Lynx in 5 because I do feel like Courtney Williams is the ultimate X factor. I think that she has the style of play that can undo everything that New York loves to do defensively. You can see the mid-range. She shoots that shot as efficiently as most people make layups. And that's a problem, especially you get into what I think is going to be a ton of clutch play. Last 5 minutes of the game and a game within 5 points. Courtney's going to be able to knock down mid-range jumpers. She's also going to grab rebounds. She's also going to facilitate the basketball the way that the Minnesota Lynx need her to for them to be at their best selves. I think in tandem with her, though, I think she is the X factor for Minnesota, but in tandem with her is going to be Bridget Carlton.
My dad's favorite player. We nicknamed her Bridgie in my house.
Bridgie. That's funny, but Bridgie, I said this naturally right there. It clicks. Bridget, one of the best. She finished top 3 in most improved player. I think that was more than earned. She looked like the best 3-point shooter, which is saying a lot in multiple pockets of the season, considering Kayla McBride is also on their roster.
Right.
But Bridget has had a couple of loud games against the New York Liberty, including their very last game in the regular season where she knocked down 5 threes. I think she was at 4.5 3-point attempts a game in this regular season series, and she was knocking those down to like north of 50%. They're going to need a whole lot of that outside of Kayla McBride knocking down threes. They're going to need a lot of that from Bridget, the way that Minnesota is going to be defended by New York. So I'm looking forward to seeing those dynamics between Courtney Williams and Bridget Carlton play out. But I do think that because Courtney Williams is who she is and the dynamics that she brings to the fold, that they will win the championship.
I don't agree.
Talk to me.
The X factor for New York is going to be Jonquel Jones. She's going to do it all for the team. And I'm going to say it. She's going to have a game where she's going to be 6 for 8 from 3 and 2 30-plus point games, and Sabrina is going to go off in the entire playoff series. I'm not going to give any specific stats because Sabrina can do whatever she wants. But quite frankly, I think that JJ is going to put the stompage on this New York
Minnesota
Lynx team. Goodness. Words too fast. But yeah, I think JJ is really going to bring it. I think, a lot of people are talking about Stewie needs to be locked in, Stewie this, Stewie that. But JJ, to me, and you know how I feel about JJ, is the make or break for this New York team.
That's interesting. I don't disagree. I feel like in most matchups, Jonquel is too great. Like, this is a player that just won MVP 2 seasons ago. Like, two seasons ago. But considering who's on their roster, she's not their best player. Some nights she's not their second best player when Sabrina's at her best. And that's why it makes sense that she could be in the realm of X Factor. I'm very curious to see how well she plays because I do think she could be the X Factor for New York.
If she has 6 3-pointers in a game, I'm gonna literally be insufferable.
It's not impossible.
I will be insufferable.
It's not impossible at all. I struggle with that because Atlanta's been so great. We saw what Atlanta has done all regular season with Mercury specific, with the Brittney Griner matchup.
In general have just been ridiculous.
Yes. Like
with the shutdown.
Nafisa won Defensive Player of the Year, but it's very much a team thing that's made them as great as they are on the defensive end of the floor. I feel like we're gonna see that Atlanta Smith really kind of take a spotlight for the Minnesota Lynx, and they're gonna need it. It's not gonna be just her guarding Jonquel one-on-one because that's very much gonna be a team thing. But a lot of the individual things that she does to make players uncomfortable and make their job as a scorer harder, I think will come to the forefront. I feel like for New York, though, Sabrina is going to be the key. I won't say X Factor. I do think that JJ is their X Factor, but I think Sabrina is going to be the key. And I'm saying that, putting the puzzle together. My X Factor for Minnesota, Courtney Williams. The key for, obviously, the Liberty, Sabrina Ionescu. Guard play. Obviously, both teams have front court that are all-stars, all WNBA caliber players. I'm not going to say they're going to wash out in terms of what that's going to look like against each other. I feel like that's going to be closely played, though. I think whose guard group plays better is going to determine this series. Sabrina versus Courtney Williams and company versus in company. That's going to be what makes the difference. And whoever plays better in crunch time is going to be who really wins this series.
Let me ask you this. Last season during the finals, I felt that whoever won game 1 automatically. I felt like it was a lock. I don't really feel the same way this season. Do you think that game 1 is as important as it was last season? And I think that a lot of it was the Vegas depth, right, was a huge problem even in the finals. But now I don't think that either of these teams have that, same issue. Would you agree?
No, obviously both of these teams have a lot of depth. That's why I'm speaking to the guard group in general. I can't just say one player.
Right.
I think whoever the guard group plays better is going to be.
Yeah, don't think we forgot about you, Natasha.
That's going to be who wins. My point exactly. I'm going to get to Natasha Heidemann in a little bit. But, I think for those many reasons, though, I think that's why Minnesota is going to be able to win it. I do think that outside of Courtney Williams, you talk about Kayla McBride, you talk about everything that she's been this season. I'm just replaying in my head the clutch three after pull up and transition after well contested, almost getting poked in the eye, and it just doesn't even touch the rim as it goes through the net. And she probably got fouled on that, and it's a 4-point play at a crucial juncture in the game on the road. Like, that's just what she does. And then you tandemize that with everything she is at that to Bridget Carlton, like we talked about. I don't know. I can see Benaja Laney, and obviously Kayla Thorne's not a guard, but she's an ancillary player. I can see players like that in addition to Leonie Fibich having a dynamic and impact on the game. I just don't know if they're going to knock down their three-point shots as well as that ancillary group for the Minnesota Lynx collectively. And I think that's what's going to really drive the series. It's going to be a lot of three-pointers taken and made. I think we see almost all these games in the triple digits, which, again, when I'm speaking to evolution of basketball, all these players being able to dribble, pass, and shoot from all three levels of the floor, it's going to be a high level of basketball seen in every single game and fun to watch.
Giggling at Kayla Thornton is going to have one crazy game this series.
And that's why I mentioned her, Rob. Appreciate you, Rob. That's exactly why I mentioned her. She's going to have a game where she probably knocks down 3 or 4 threes. We talked about how she's been used a whole lot more over the course of the season. And I'm liking to use Sabrina Ionescu as the point guard with a bunch of big wings around her in a couple of different iterations, and the impact that that's had. She's gonna be due for a loud game, and that's gonna be a game that the New York Liberty win. It's gonna be dictated by the ancillary group, and I do feel like Minnesota's collection of ancillary players can outproduce and be more effective than New York's when it comes crunch time in specific.
I mean, user, that is a fair comment that they haven't had to play with the size of New York. I would agree that, but they've also had to handle Brittney Griner in, the first series. So, can you really say that? I'm not sure, but
I don't disagree. I mean, I do disagree with that because they just went against the Connecticut Sun. There's no bigger team in the WNBA outside of the Connecticut Sun than the Chicago Sky. We're talking about specifically the front court.
Size, yeah.
And we just saw what they did. They won that series in 5, but I do feel like if they're knocking down their 3-pointers to the level that we've seen them do all season, it's just not gonna matter because at that point they're just gonna be dictating so much with how they play and the ways that they can kind of shapeshift over a series and even a game in specific. It's just hard for me to see Minnesota losing this series. Even though I have acknowledged that I see avenues that New York can win it. And I think a lot of that's going to come from, like you mentioned, Sabrina Ionescu. But in addition to that, I got another thing to speak to. But what are your other thoughts on this series? Okay. So obviously, Breanna Stewart, all-world player, second best player, third best player, fourth, however you want to spice it up.
Whoever you want to ask.
She's one of the best basketball players in the entire world, period. I think one of the most important things that she's going to bring to this series, 2 of them. One of them is her ability to screen and her ability to kind of force switches. I think that's going to be something that allows for Sabrina to be that key that I spoke to. And then the other big thing with Stewie is going to be her ability to cut. I don't think she gets enough attention because she does so many other loud things on the floor, in addition to her otherworldly IQ, that some of the ancillary things that she does that makes her such a great player don't get the attention they deserve. Her cutting ability with the ways that Minnesota switches on the ball and off the ball is gonna really open up things for New York. I'm thinking of in the Commissioner's Cup championship, there's a pick and roll with with John Quill screening for Sabrina Ionescu on the right side of the floor, and on the left side of the floor, it's Breanna Stewart, Kayla Thornton, and Benaja Laney, excuse me. I was gonna say Bridget Carlson. I was gonna say Bridget, excuse me. Yeah, those 3 on the left side. And Sabrina comes off of the screen. Atlanta Smith is basically double teaming her. Not an aggressive double team, but a double team. And Stewie, like I mentioned, at the top of the 3 on the left side, cuts. As the Minnesota Lynx are trying to switch. And that takes 2 with her. So it's 2 to the ball on Sabrina. They get back out. And now when Stewie cuts, that distorts all of the rotations from Minnesota. They end up getting a wide open 3 from the backside for, I think it was Benaja Laney. Kayla Thornton got the ball. She passed it to Benaja. She knocked down a wide open 3. I think that's a template that New York can cycle through regardless of how they go about whatever plays they might be running. And I think a lot of that is going to be a trigger with Stewie being a cutter. And like I said, she might have a game where she has 11 points, but might be the most impactful player because of these other little things that she does to make a game tough for opponents to beat them. That's a lot of what she did with Team USA. A lot of the 3-pointers they got were because Stewie was able to cut, obviously get double teams with the ball in their hands too. And I think that when you have a team the way that Minnesota is going to have to defend them, that's going to open up opportunities for the ancillary players to have that impact. And if they get to that consistently, now we have a 5-game series where it's going to be a dice roll in Game 5.
One thing before we move on to talking about the Mercury, I just got to say, if I get to quote tweet my own tweet about Jalen Sherrod, WNBA champion, I'm going to be just put me in the straitjacket now.
Shout out Jalen Sherrod. You got the extension? Got the extension, right? Towards the end of the regular season? Yeah.
And I'll just be honest. I don't think there's any rookie that doesn't play for the Mercury that I've talked about more on this show than Jalen Sherrod.
This is very true.
So, I text Stephen about Jalen. Like, I'm tweeting about Jalen. Like, I need WNBA champion rookie Jalen Sherrod in my life. Like, I need this to happen.
You might see it.
I've been tweeting about it for about a month now. And like I said, I'm prepare. I know I always say this, prepare for the worst because I will be annoying. Pac-12 blood runs deep in this house. That being said, though, Stephen, Natasha Cloud, Brittney Griner, we want to talk about them.
Let's do it.
We talked about Brittney Griner and fun we're going to have in the wintertime in the Unrivaled, but we also had a lot of fun over the summer watching her growth kind of back into the league after the year she had last year where she just kind of was going on her little world tour, and now she gets to focus on basketball again. And, you know, she grew a lot, especially after breaking her foot. I think she had some expectations for herself that kind of went out the window a little bit after the broken foot. But that being said, she still like brought everything to this team, and I'm excited to kind of dive into exactly what she did.
Well, let's start there. Brittney Griner returned in mid-June, and the impact that she had on the Phoenix Mercury was like a night and day in terms of contrast. Nate Tibbetts spoke to it every chance he had an opportunity to. So did Kalia Copper, so did Diana Taurasi, so did Natasha Cloud, and everybody else on the roster. Brittney is literally and figuratively a big piece in everything that the Mercury are looking to be going forward. I think in terms of identity, there's no bigger player, again, no pun intended, than BG because of that inside-out presence that she provides. And it's something that it's as guaranteed of a bucket than anybody else getting the ball at any other spot that they see as favorable across the entire NBA or WNBA, excuse me. That's including players like Asia Wilson, including three-point shooters like Kayla McBride, including a mid-range shooter like Courtney Williams. Brittney Griner post touches are still some of, if not the absolute most efficient in the entire WNBA. What comes with that is double teams, triple teams, all types of weird defenses.
Collapse.
She showed great ability last season and really kind of took it to another level this season and passing off of the attention that she garners. And I think that's something that's going to be valuable going into next season because I do think they're going to have a better cast of role players on this Phoenix Mercury roster that allows for her to comfortably be herself impactfully, as well as players like Kalia Copper who play in the paint first and then try to get out from there. So shout outs to Brittney Griner for her season. Just looking at the stats, she finished this season with 17.8 points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, and she also averaged a block and a half a game. So those are about the marks that you would want for her to check off. I do feel like Brittney Griner feels she could have been better defensively this season, and it's not necessarily just the block shots. It's the little things to make a defensive scheme be as effective as it can be. Some of it not by her fault specifically, because I do think that generally speaking, the team could have been better defensively. She gets better perimeter defense from her teammates. She's going to look better and vice versa. So I do think she can be better. I do think she comes into next season potentially with more continuity with Nate Tibbetts if he is the coach next season, which we expect right now. All of that's going to just kind of work in their favor, and I do think that's going to be important for her as well as everybody else.
Well, I think kind of the reason you're speaking to, like, I think that she might have decided to play Unrivaled specifically because she fell short of her own expectations for the season. Mm-hmm. And she knows how much better she can be. She knows how great she is and wants, like I said, to just live up to her own expectations. I see Chloe Miller in the comments, my girl, with the rebounds, hands and knees. Listen, aren't we all, okay? But unfortunately, you know, we take what we can get. And so hopefully maybe next season that number takes a little bit of a jump. That would be nice. But I know Stephen here is ready to talk about Tash and her growth, right?
Of course. I'll let you start with Tash, though. Let's see what your general. Well, hold on. Before we get to that, though, what would be your grade for Brittney Griner this season?
I would say a B-.
B-? Okay. I think I would give her a solid B.
Okay.
I think her impact in terms of the defensive side, we've seen it obviously be better. And to preface everything, even past all of that, she said she wants to be a defensive player of the year.
Right.
So if she's saying that, then I'm holding her to that account, not just because she said it, but also because I see it in her potential. So that's a challenge for BG, whether she actually gets it or she's just in the running. If she's at that level, that Mercury defense jumps from bottom third of the W to closer to the middle third, if not top third of the league. So, and I think that's where they need to be for them to be contending, for their offense and defense to match each other. So a lot of onus is going to be on Brittney Griner going into next season to be that level of player that she knows she can be, but also that her franchise needs her to be.
Well, and, you know, she knows so much of the offense runs through her, but also in order for the defense to work the way it's supposed to, she's got to be where she's supposed to be and doing what she's supposed to be doing. And like he's talking about, you know, continuity with Nate is huge, I think, for this team. I think the turnover, for lack of a better term, of just players, point guards, whatever else with the Phoenix Mercury have really hurt them. And with Tash, what we're about to get to, I think you saw Tash come into her position as a point guard not necessarily slowly throughout the season, but at the beginning you could definitely tell that, not that there were trust issues, but just that she was finding her spot with these new players, whether it's Kalia and, Diana, or just Brittney Griner when she comes back from injury, just learning her new team and what's expected of her and how she can make their defense better. I think she found her spots later in the season, and you saw her numbers take a big jump late in the year. I think starting with that last game in LA, like, she just has been on a ridiculous level. I've been saying defrosting for 6 weeks now, because like since that last game in LA, she was just playing some phenomenal basketball, and we saw it in the playoffs. I told you we would.
We told you.
Like, I mean, come on now. And like Chloe in the comments says, like, the Mercury defense is Tash. Like, she runs the show on the defense, and she's the loudest person on the floor at all times. And I can hear her from media row, which, I mean, is really saying something in the Footprint Center.
Natasha, after Brittney Griner, honestly, I'm at this point, after her first season with the Mercury, there's 1A and 1B in terms of identity markers for this Phoenix Mercury team. Obviously, Brittney Griner for everything that we just spoke to, and right adjacent to her is obviously Natasha Cloud. I don't, like I've mentioned multiple times this season, I don't think there's a better point guard to be at the controls of the offense as well as the defense. And I think that as well as the defense piece is equally as important as the offense, because the guard position is hard to play, just guarding guards. You take that and you quadruple down on that and saying guarding not just guards, but also guarding 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, whether it's switches or intentionally starting possessions or coming out of timeouts. Natasha Cloud is all of that. And I don't think that the Mercury are the team that they are success-wise if they don't have her at the controls offensively and defensively. So shout out to Natasha Cloud for that. That's something I don't think any other point guard in the W can do. If you think Brittney Sykes is a point guard, now I can kind of see it a little bit, because she definitely guards 1 through 5 as effectively as anybody else not named Natasha Cloud. But I don't think that Sykes is a point guard, so I don't think there's another guard that can do what she does.
No, sometimes I'll be honest, I get mad watching other guards because I'm used to watching Natasha Cloud. I'm like, do y'all play defense? And like, we've been over this. Defense wins championships, and so
it's that part for sure. And then to take it even another step, it's like, okay, you're good just guarding only guards. Like, imagine the luxury it is to just have to guard your position.
Right.
And I don't even want to say just have to. It was definitely Natasha Cloud's decision to do that.
But early in the season, was it?
But early in the season, it was tougher, yes.
And I'd argue that Tash played her best defense early in the season. I would argue that she found her role in the defense way sooner than the offense, and you could see that. And like, she just was playing. She was guarding a lot bigger of players early in the season.
Like we said.
Because the lack of BG and Beck Allen were putting her in positions that she otherwise would not have been.
Like we said to open the season, Asia Wilson, Tina Charles, Cheyenne Parker-Titus. You can name almost any other front court player. You can talk about Brianna
JJ,
Stewart,
like, go
John
nuts,
Jones,
y'all, like.
Nneka Ogwumike. You can just keep going. You can keep cycling through these names, and then you get to the middle of the season where they're going against the Indiana Fever. Now she's guarding Aaliyah Boston for a handful of possessions.
Sometimes, I think they both got mad on that possession.
Awful, yeah, you better believe it. Because she's like, from Aaliyah, she's like, you gonna put a guard on me? No, watch out. And Natasha's like, I'm not just any guard. You're not just gonna run right through my chest either. So checkmate. Yeah, and we're gonna see about it. But she's also guarding in that same game, Alyssa Smith. And just, you see the impact. It's not just the heart to go and guard that position, but do the things that have to be done for it to be effective, whether that's switching or guarding those players in the post, where they're obviously at home and you're at a quote-unquote disadvantage. So shout out Natasha Cloud for that. I want to make sure that defense gets the attention it deserves. I'll definitely have more coming on both her and Brittney Griner, but to keep it on Natasha, one of the other big things for me this season, well, two of them. We can talk about one first. The assists. She was third in the W this season in assists per game and in total in the season. After, I can't remember who was first, but I think it was actually Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was first. Right. Yes. So tearing it off like that, her being in that group of players, top 3 in assists and assists per game, that's exactly how the Mercury need her to play. But it's not just her watching Diana Taurasi and Kalia Copper come off of screens or throwing the ball to Brittney Griner and pick and roller in the post. A lot of times it was her getting to the paint, like Nate said, getting her feet muddy and making passes off of that.
Difficult passes.
They're like off platform, one-handed to the left, one-handed to the right, finding those shooters wide open and not just getting it to them when they're open in a timely manner, but putting it where they can just catch it and let it go, getting off efficient catch and shoots. And that's exactly what she did. To the point of that, though, looking at Natasha Cloud and her assist this season, looking back at her last season or her last 2 seasons with the Mystics, 85 three-point assists, 87 3-point assists, and then this season with the Phoenix Mercury, 93 3-point assists. That's like top 3 in the league. In terms of generating those shots, we talked about Nate wanting to get up a lot of 3-pointers. A lot of that is because of how Natasha goes about playing the point guard position. She did that perfectly for this team. And then we saw what she did in addition to her playmaking in the playoffs, which we'll get to next. What are your thoughts on Natasha as a playmaker this season and just generally operating on offense?
Well, I think when, you compare it a lot to her previous years with the Mystics, you put the talent that you put around her here in Phoenix, and it's almost impossible to not see her sprout, right? When you throw water on the plants, it grows, right? Is that the saying? I don't know. I didn't go to college, you guys. But yeah, I think Tasha's come into herself very well. And like you said, grown to get her feet dirty before just taking the easy pass and getting those, like you kind of labeled them, easier assists to the just pick and roll, off pick and rolls and things like that. That being said, and early in the season, they were number 2 in 3-point attempts.
Yep.
And so, all of that is in thanks to Natasha Cloud and putting her team in position for success. And like he said, like putting the ball where it needs to be so they can, hit the shot that she's attempting to get them.
Yeah. That's the big thing, getting the shots that they really need them to be taking on consistency. She's got that. And I think the other big thing within all of that is also that she had 84 assists at the rim this season. Obviously, a bunch of those were to Brittney Griner, but also a lot to Kalia Copper too. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll have to double check, but in terms of assist combinations, I think Natasha had more assists to Kalia this season than she did to Brittney Griner. And I think that the fact that it's going to a guard instead of that front court piece, because Kalia is such a good cutter, I think that the puzzle pieces on their offense fit extremely well. I think they just have to figure out how to get up more 3-point attempts with Brittney Griner on the floor.
Well, and then you add in the assist from BG this year. I think that, her growth there from this year to next year is really going to help, like you said, get more 3 shots.
Yeah, I think the having that shot profile that Nate spoke to early in the season, wanting to get up close to 43 a game, a lot harder with Brittney Griner, but if you have the requisite players to play to that philosophy, and it's now not just 1 season, but now going into 2 seasons with that philosophy, makes it a lot easier to execute. They get an offseason to pick the players that he's going to need for his system to be as great as it could be, but also for those players on the ancillary role to complement Kalia Copper, Brittney Griner, and Natasha Cloud, and potentially even Diana Taurasi.
Well, like Rob said in the comments, get a healthy Beck Allen in the corner for a full season, 100-plus 3-point assists easily.
That's a big piece in all of it, too, for sure. But not to go off into too many other tangents, but with Natasha Cloud, the other big thing, 3-point shooting this season. And you speak to the playoffs, you speak to game 1 specifically, and even game 2, she's just getting it done.
Went off. She gets, this is the thing about Tash Cloud, right? She does exactly what her team needs her to do at the exact right time. She's not delayed. She's never denied. It's the right time and exactly what they need. Tash Cloud was the best player on the floor in the playoffs, in my opinion. And you could see that in both games. So I just think, like Stephen said, the 3-point shooting has been huge for her game.
Yeah. The unders specifically, we talked about those a lot this season. Her ability to take the soft coverage that defenses consistently gave her and flip them into 3-point opportunities, if not being fouled, or also getting to the basket for herself. She was able to kind of not just be predictable in that, she was able to consistently dictate. It felt like, especially having watched Natasha for a majority of her career, it felt like this is the most unbothered she's been by the defensive coverage over her entire career. From the dictation standpoint more than anything, she never felt like she was taking the shots that the opponents wanted her to when they wanted her to. It was always when she wanted to. She comes off the screen, I want to take a 3, so I'm going to pull up, and I'm going to do it comfortably. And she made sure to shout out Christy Tolliver with the footwork things that she helped her kind of unlock her comfortability from deep. The other big thing, like I mentioned, the drives. She kept finding ways to get around, help defense, get around that drop coverage defender, and get to the basket. And she was putting a ton of pressure on the rim outside of just Brittney Griner and Kalia Copper doing that. I think those things are important for them. And then the other big thing within all of that, the three-point shooting and playing pick and roll in general this season. She's had the fifth or fourth most pick and roll possessions this season. She was one of the three best in terms of points per possession generated from that. And with that, looking at game one specifically, over the course of the season, her most points scored in pick and roll was just 14. She had 26 in game one. And a lot of that was obviously threes because they were giving her unders. That just speaks to a player that's just a super duper X factor, no pun intended, but also a player that very much aligns with everything that the X factor is looking to see from that specific player. So salute and shout out to Natasha Cloud. Great season. They need every bit of that and then some going into 2025.
And just to make it a buck, Tash Cloud is very happy in the Valley, and the Valkyries can't have her.
No, she's not up for grabs at all.
No. So whoever's watching this, just hang it up now. You can forget about her. She's the best point guard in the league here in the Valley, and she's here to stay. So get off of that. But that being said, Stephen, I've had a lot of fun with you today. Like, I think I'm going to have to come back. Maybe I have to move to Phoenix now.
It was fun. It was definitely fun. I'm looking forward to talking about the finals after it'll be, 2 or 3 games? 2 games, I think, until our next episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to all of that. Hopefully we got some Mercury news before things kind of come back around for us, but it was definitely fun being in person.
Yeah, I can't... Listen, Lindsay, I see your comment. Please, Erika, move here. I'm working on it, okay? I got too many cats in the bag. I'm working all the things, okay? But that being said, no better time to become a diehard. Help support Erika's move to Phoenix. PHNX needs money in order to do that, so become a diehard. You get a free membership card. You get a cool hat or shirt from the locker of your choosing. And you get into the Discord lounge where you can harass me every single day, as most of you do anyways. So it's a lot of fun in there. I have a blast. You get a lot of exclusive random content, mostly by this guy. And yeah, needless to say, it's just a blast in the Discord. So become a PHNX diehard. Go to the link down below. And then also, word on the street is there's a new newsletter, and that link should be pinned here somewhere for you to click and join our free newsletter, and you'll get some information in your email every single day. It's exclusive information, so you won't be able to find it anywhere else. And yeah, so do both of those things, as I said. And in the meantime, though, Stephen, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Stephen PG3 on Twitter.
You got a new...
It's a new, yeah. Work with me on this.
He's ruining my life,
Work
y'all.
with me on this. We transitioning. But yeah, you can find me there at Stephen PG3 on Twitter. You can also find me on gophnx.com. We'll definitely have more written content coming over the next week or two with more player reviews and potentially some of these coming via diehard memberships. So tap in with those. There'll be video content coming in conjunction with those things. And you can also find me on YouTube at Stephen Prejean Gardner 3, where a lot of those film sessions will be as supplemental content that comes from the written work as well.
And you can also find me over on Twitter at Erika Lee Day. You can find me over on as a series regular on the PHNX Wildcat Show, wherever you get your college content. Should be the Wildcat Show. And then also you can follow us both together at PHNX_Mercury, because while it is the off season, I'm still having a blast over there. So you can't miss out all of it. Follow all of us. And until then, thank you for joining us in the comments today, because I don't think you guys understand how freaking excited I was to be in person today. So shout out to all of you guys for joining us at a super random time on the most random day. I don't think we've ever done a show on Thursday. Maybe one.
Earlier. We had like 1 or 2. Ago. Yeah, we had like 1 or 2 earlier. But yeah, we're here. We're here in person. Let's get to it. Lindsay, you are hilarious. I see you.
Well, watch out, y'all. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you guys next time.
We all silly like the mayor.